capital gains tax.
So you're very welcome to Ducogym's live nutrition event with Martin Forde, and thank you very much for joining us. We are going to cover nucleic acids today. So Martin, you're very welcome. Thanks for joining us. How are you?
Yeah, tremendous to be here. Again, Jamie, thank you. I'll just adjust my camera slightly.
Put you in the center.
I couldn't.
Put you front and center. Yeah, there we go. Excellent.
Oh, there we go. Okay.
So we covered minerals the last day, and we talked briefly about acid and alkaline conditions and then the importance of the different minerals. But today we want to talk a little bit about nucleic acids. And it's often a topic that when people are discussing health and they're discussing diets and nutrition, they don't often discuss the importance of nucleic acids and how it really contributes towards, I suppose, a healthy diet and almost like a rejuvenating approach. And that's probably something that we're all about in Ducogym and in Duco Health. It's life force. It's really about rejuvenation. It's keeping the body young and really focusing on health. So what are nucleic acids for those who haven't heard of them before?
Yeah, they're the building blocks of DNA and RNA. And there are 5 different nucleic acids, where there are 2 nucleic acids, which is RNA and DNA. And there are 5 different building blocks that make all those up. Yeah, okay. But basically, if you think of it like this, that nothing in the body can happen without the nucleic acids. So it doesn't matter how much protein, carbohydrates, fats, vitamins, minerals, and water you take. If you don't have nucleic acid, you can't use any of them. So in a sense, we're never lacking we're never, let's say, devoid of nucleic acids, but we could be somewhat lacking in them. Now, interesting material has come out in the last few years, maybe 10 years or so, where it's been discovered that infant feed must have nucleic acids in it.
Okay, wow.
Back maybe too many years ago to even say it, I did my thesis on nucleic acids for the Naturopathic College.
Oh, wow.
Many years later, it was discovered that nucleic acids were absolutely essential in children's feed. That is in the artificial feed, because they're abundant in breast milk and they're absolutely necessary for a baby to thrive properly.
Okay.
So they're a natural part of the diet. They're a natural part of the diet, and your body contains nucleases, which are enzymes to break down the nucleic acid. So, you know, without nucleic acid, without whatever goes to make up the nucleic acid and make it function, and some of the vitamins make it function as well, then your nucleic acid function can be diminished. As a result of which, you don't make up the enzymes, you don't make up the hormones, you don't make up the proteins at quite the same rate that you should. And when you do take a nucleic acid supplement, if you like, or you increase the nucleic acid in your diet, interesting things happen, like you get warmer.
Yeah.
I sat in the office with someone else and they were cold, I was warm. Just like that. If you're cold, then the fires aren't burning as fast as they should be. Nucleic acids help stoke that up in a very gentle, natural way.
Okay,
so that's where it's for your energy.
So what I always find fascinating about the discussion in nucleic acids is when people start to understand maybe how the body replicates cells, and it probably also ties in other things that we've discussed where maybe certain lifestyle factors damage cells. So maybe you'd be able to explain to people how that photocopying process works in the body and maybe how nucleic acids play such a vital role in all of that.
Yeah, the reproduction of cells then is a very important part of this. For instance, your skin cells reproduce quickly, so therefore they are they call it a bellwether, isn't it? An indicator of the general well-being of the body. So if that's working well, it's working well. Certain vitamins protect you against the inaccurate replication of your cells. Inaccurate replication of cells leads to problems with growths, perhaps. Problems, certainly, maybe reproductive problems, because certain cells, you know, the division of the cells is a critical matter, and in the reproductive area, certainly. Also in immunity, where cells have to reproduce themselves and replicate themselves quite rapidly. So the vitamins, such as vitamin C, protect the DNA from being destroyed, right, or being damaged by various kinds of activities in the body, including what we would call free radicals.
Yeah.
Now, other nutrients such as selenium go to making up the natural defenses that your body itself produces, such as glutathione, which also protects DNA. And so for a number of different vitamins, it's well recognized that they protect the nucleic acids that you naturally have yourself, the ones that you were born with, yeah, that are inside every cell. Now, the way the nucleic acids work is that the DNA is your blueprint.
Yeah.
And naturally, you want to have your blueprint expressed in the best possible way. Like typically in a perfect world, at the age of 26 or so, it's a point we've covered, Jamie, the person will be as perfect as they're going to be. Yeah. And the idea is to stay that way, if you can. But there's a tendency for the DNA and the replication and the reproduction of the cells to be diminished over time for all sorts of reasons, including maybe vitamin deficiencies at different times. You don't have to have a deficiency for your whole life. It's enough to have a deficiency for a month or two, and that could damage the whole process. I don't want to scare people. That's not the intention. But if you do watch your nutrition and eat the foods which are nutrient dense and possibly look at nutrient supplementation, then you can head off a lot of the so-called deterioration that people may expect as people get older.
So the DNA effectively is the blueprint, and the RNA that is responsible for executing the basic instructions, right?
The RNA reads the DNA,
yeah,
and enters into a different part of the cell where it can create proteins, enzymes, hormones, everything to make your body work.
Absolutely. So it's vital that your DNA is as accurate as possible, and your RNA is also functioning properly. So to get the proper expression.
Absolutely. When organs fail, then a lot of the time it's because the cells themselves have failed to produce what that organ is supposed to do. A good example is the thyroid. So if the body, for all sorts of reasons, attacks the thyroid and you get an autoimmune, or if there's another reason why your thyroid isn't working, then bingo, no thyroid hormone available. Your energy goes down. You'll feel rather unwell.
Yeah.
So that's because the process of producing thyroid hormone has broken down at some level. Now, how do you protect against such a thing? I mean, that can happen in any part of the body, but how do you protect against such a thing? Well, we're here to discuss the idea that a good diet, close to nature, yeah, without too many foods that form a burden on the body and that's hard to break down and maybe even in some cases attack the body. That's one element of it. And then we have the whole possibility of providing the body with a kind of a super nutrition or extra nutrition that really helps in terms of supplements.
So in health diets, there's often a culture of eating young foods. So now that obviously closely relates to nucleic acids, but why is that?
Well, the young foods generally are, first of all, in order for a plant to grow, it must produce large amounts of RNA, right? And it will produce a lot of young, small cells in which the DNA is more concentrated. So young plants, young anything, but young plants in particular will have a higher concentration of RNA and possibly DNA than older plants, just like that. So the tradition is that you eat young things, right, to maintain a youthful vigor, as it were. So, the other way to do it is possibly to eat, the abundant sources of nucleic acids, which are essentially liver and yeast. They're the most abundant sources. and they would work very well for people.
Okay, great. And so the therapeutic effects which you've mentioned already to do with circulation, what other effects will people notice if they increase their level of nucleic acids?
You should get a big improvement in endurance.
Okay.
And, you know, if you can improve the functioning of cells as regards producing the I suppose the cogs that make the body work, which are enzymes, then things are going to work much faster and better and longer. So that's what people do. So an athlete, for instance, might consider looking at taking from various sources 2 grams of nucleic acid a day. Now that also benefits your immune system a great deal. I mean, that's been shown, and it's in the immunity area that the requirements for what they call nucleotides, which are the breakdown products of nucleic acids, are found. So both for immunity and endurance. Now, endurance can be that you have to do an event. It could be an Ironman or whatever it is that people do. With nucleic acids, you'll bear up under it much better.
Okay.
And less likely to get a dip in terms of your immune system.
Okay, brilliant. And what are the sources of nucleic acids? So if somebody wants to increase their level, and let's say they're going for that recommended amount of 2 grams a day, how would they get that? What does that look like?
You can get it from an ounce of desiccated liver, which would be, 15 grams or 30 grams of desiccated liver if you can do it, which is about 2 really big dessert spoonfuls of liver powder.
Yep.
Alternatively, you can get approximately the same amount from a couple of dessert spoonfuls of brewer's yeast, which is a vegetarian option, of course. But if you can take brewer's yeast, and obviously the debittered and killed yeast is what you're looking for here. If you can take that, it's a wonderful food, and particularly good for blood sugar control, as well as its nucleic acid content. So anything that reproduces quickly in the body, such as your skin cells, will benefit from that.
Okay, so sprouted seeds as well, because they're very, very young, they're quite high in nucleic acids, right?
Completely, and the quality of that would be really good. Now, what happens with the high level of nucleic acid in sprouted seeds causes the seeds to produce a high concentration of phytochemicals. So the phytochemicals, for instance, a good example is broccoli sprouts. The concentrate of broccoli sprouts is much higher in beneficial chemicals such as some of you will know sulforaphane or DIM, and we even have a supplement for that. But these are very, very good effects in terms of controlling excess hormones in the body and detoxifying the body. So the sprouts will have a much better concentration of sulforaphane than the adult plant. So you can be eating your broccoli for dinner, but if you had a broccoli sprout extract, such as we might have in, say, cell rejuvenation mix or something like that, it's going to be quite potent in comparison. Yeah. Because even when you boil broccoli, you may not be getting the phytochemicals out of it because there's a special way of treating it to be able to get the best out of it.
Okay, wow. Okay, that's brilliant. So what about organ meat? So which animal foods are going to be higher in nucleic acids?
Well, the simple one to obtain is liver. I mean, people who are... Oh, look, Jamie, you know I visited Mongolia. In Mongolia, they eat everything, every part of the animal. Interestingly, you know the types of illnesses that are normally ascribed to eating too much meat? Well, they don't have them. Yeah. They don't have the same illnesses we have here at all. But they will eat everything. They will eat the intestines. They will eat the internal organs. They eat everything. They really eat those in preference to the meat part, although they eat plenty of that too. So they have a high meat diet. But they do get substantial amounts of organ meats in. If you ask for liver, then you'll know that it's a liver meal. I mean, seriously, in Mongolia, where they are very proud of their cuisine, by the way. So liver is the easiest one to obtain. If you can get what's called sweetbreads, right?
Yeah.
Which is either thymus or pancreas tissue, then sometimes that's available and you can eat that. But for the ordinary person, if they were to eat liver 3 times a week, that would make a big contribution to the nucleic acid content of their diet. It would multiply it.
Yeah, and so for those of people, because some people don't like to eat liver, taking the liver supplement, either the special liver formula that we do, which is very high in iron, which is very good for maybe for ladies, and then the desiccated liver formula that we do in both in capsule and in powder. So they are both an excellent source of nucleic acids.
Absolutely, the supplements are terrific. But I'm just going to say that seafood is very good for nucleic acids. It might be twice as good as meat. As ordinary meat, that is.
Okay.
You know.
Okay.
So it's particularly, people sometimes like to take shellfish of different kinds. They're good.
Yeah, and herring roe, the fish eggs, herring roe, cod roe.
Fish eggs. There you go. Now, yes, that would be very, very potent for us. Yeah.
Okay, great. And then what about for vegetarians? Then we've mentioned the supplement brewer's yeast. What other vegetarian sources do we have for nucleic acids?
Onions and garlic have been mentioned as higher in nucleic acid than other vegetables. Yeah.
Okay.
So there's that, and then there's the idea of selecting young plants, and that will give you more nucleic acids.
Okay, cool. And because we were mentioning, Albert is asking, hi Albert, all the way from Belize. He's asking any specific type of liver or any liver, but it's any liver, really, isn't it?
Okay, well, I mean the great pioneer Dr. Gerson used calves liver in his cancer curing protocol. Calves liver. Now, in America, sadly, they tend not to use that because the agricultural practices in respect of raising calves are very poor and lead to contamination of the liver. And they use other methods at the moment. They use coenzyme Q10, frankly. But the whole dietary approach there with juices and liver is what was intended to revitalize the person's immune system and the person's own liver and the person's processing power for everything they need to do in life, as a result of which they could get a regression of even very serious illnesses. And by the way, that type of thing applies to less serious illnesses too. So you don't always have to think in terms of life-threatening illnesses to apply methods of that nature to improve and revitalize and restore the body. Most illnesses would respond. And that's a nutritional approach, pure nutrition. It's very naturopathic.
Okay, incredible. Right. So I know that Tony always talked about eating foods that were high in nucleic acids, but he also called them high life force foods. So what does he mean by high life force?
Well, it's just that the nucleic acids, the DNA and the RNA, is the process of the life force. Seriously, the DNA vibrates to the life force. And if you can have sufficiently good expression of your DNA, then you will stay at your 26-year-old, presuming that was good, right? At your 26-year-old stage. In other words, at your optimum, at your most perfect, given your genetics and all the rest of it. Because frankly, Jamie, it probably takes, if you were going to improve people, if you were going to look at everyone in Ireland straight up, right, and we were going to improve them, then it might take a couple of generations to produce really big improvements. You know, you can improve yourself, but properly done, maybe with the right feeding and everything, then your children might be better than you. Yeah.
Yeah.
For instance, my children are less obese than I am, which is, God, that's something anyway. I'm grateful for it. Yeah. So they don't tend to, have fat because they were brought up on a certain kind of diet, which you probably know about. I mean, seriously, we would have tried to eat close to nature. We would have used more protein in the diet. We would have used nutritional supplements, and it tells.
Absolutely. So, and then to further enhance the fact or the effect of nucleic acids, you can also take foods that are high in life force and maybe not as high in nucleic acids. So how would you identify a food that's very high in life force? I mean, I know it's simple in some ways, but just for people to understand.
You're down to language which was used in yoga And in yoga, it was recommended that everything you do was towards life force, to build up your life force, to increase your vitality, but to get it into every part of the body, into all of your glands, into your brain, into your circulation, into your muscles, into everything, into your lungs. And you obtain that life force from breathing and from certain kinds of exercises that literally pressures it into the body, and then from the right kind of food. So if you want to go on the highest life force diet, in a sense, you could choose a diet that doesn't obstruct your own life force. That's the first thing. If you clog up the body, the problem in a sense is that the diets clog our body, and the foods are incompletely used by the body. Some of them aren't very suitable, and they may be incompletely used, as a result of which the body becomes clogged up. And if your body is clogged up, your life force goes down. After a while, you notice your energy isn't as good. Maybe your mental acuity, perhaps everything isn't as good as it once was. So if your life force goes down, every cell in your body is reduced in its electrical charge. And as a result of which, your prospects aren't quite as good. So if we were thinking in terms of life extension, or longevity or anti-aging, then you have to keep your life force up. So the yogis would have said, do all these things and eat a diet which consists of foods incredibly close to nature. They would have recommended a lot of fruit and vegetables in the diet, fruits which were sun ripened, for instance, using fruit diets from time to time, maybe abstaining from food so the body can cleanse out the residues of the food which clog you up. That's fasting. So these are yoga-like principles. So the idea of eating life force foods is that you would eat foods that are young, you would eat foods that were high in this life force transmission factor, which is the DNA and the RNA, as well as looking after things like vitamins and minerals that we know about now. Because the yogis didn't quite know that, but they had a lot of information which covered the ground.
Fantastic, great. I mean, I think that really covers it for people. So, if you were to list off foods that are high in life force, maybe not such rich source of nucleic acids, we're talking what about all types of raw fruit, dried fruit, also preservative free, dried fruit, pretty good.
Well, they're very good for vitamins and minerals. You probably they're not live in the sense that a tree ripened pear is live. Yeah. So tree ripened fruit, the cells are live as you're eating them. Yeah. In other words, if you were to go out and cut your lettuce in the garden and eat it just straight away when the cells are live, and the life force is high in it. Whereas if you have it lying there for a good few days, sadly, when we buy it in the supermarket, it can be like that. The life force will be diminished. That's the principle of the life force principle of diet.
Okay, brilliant. And so raw nuts, raw seeds, they're also going to be pretty good if they're fresh.
No, absolutely, all of that.
And raw salads and raw vegetables.
Yeah, and then I going back to what we were saying about, say, wheat. Wheat. If you've got wheat berries and you boil them up, if you know how to cook that and do it overnight, that's very good for your energy. But if you make the same thing into bread, leave it on the shelf as flour is normally left for maybe a month or two, then that becomes oxidized, and when you make it into bread, it's just not quite as good. It's more inclined to be a damage to the body. I'm not saying every bread is that. I like bread, but bread which is oxidized and then made into flour that's oxidized and made into bread will not be as good as the grain that, well, if you took it and threw it out into the garden, it will grow up as wheat. Which you can cook overnight and make into a kind of a cereal.
Okay, brilliant. And you were talking just before we came on live about an article that's in one of the journals of nutrients. Is that right? Just to finish off before we wrap up for Christmas.
Oh, absolutely. When I went to Mongolia, I told them about the basic research in vitamin C and how it had been used to deal with very serious illnesses, and about Linus Pauling's work, absolutely groundbreaking work to extend the life of people with really serious illnesses. And it was total news to them. Oh my goodness. I mean, we had 300 doctors there and not one of them had heard this before, which is absolutely amazing. And then I was directing them towards the work that's been done in China at the moment. During the bad time of the COVID in China, they did use, and in Korea, they used vitamin C liberally for their hospital staff and for everyone else. And they included it as part of their protocols. And now we see that a lot of this work being recognized, it's been gathered together, and it's been recognized in this new article in the journal Nutrients. You can get it online.
Okay,
Just
brilliant. And for those that are interested in a healthy Christmas dinner, so what are we going to recommend?
Please enjoy yourself, Jamie. I was going to suggest a bodybuilding dinner, but I think we could enjoy ourselves on Christmas Day, right? You choose the best food, and funny, weirdly, on Christmas Day, we're inclined to cook everything fresh, aren't we? We're inclined to, have the best, and I think we can enjoy that, and it will be the best for us. And, remember that if you can truly enjoy a meal, then you'll digest it better, and it'll do you more good. Yeah. So this is where Christmas can really work out for you.
Yeah, isn't there a Chinese proverb or saying to do with a good diet and a bad mindset is worse than a bad diet with a good mindset? Something like that.
That's a little hard for me. I'm only kidding, Amy. But yes, the classic advice is that if you're going to eat something, never tell yourself it's bad for you at the same time.
Yeah, very important.
So the other part of that is that don't be eating stuff that's bad for you.
Yeah. In fact, good diet and a good mindset. That's what we're aiming for.
So eating close to nature and trying to get the best out of the food that's available is really critical. Now we can enjoy our party times and our social times and our family times. We can enjoy all of that, and then we kind of get back and to a regulated kind of a routine with the diet, and we try to make sure that we don't deviate too far from the principle of eating close to nature. Yeah?
Absolutely.
We tend to do well if we can manage that.
Brilliant, Martin. It's been excellent. That's our most compact event. We've stuck to some sort of a timeline. That's brilliant. Great. Really appreciate it. And for everybody watching, thank you so much for joining us. We're planning to come back in January. That'll be the last one for 2020. So we'll go at 2021 with renewed enthusiasm. And Martin, really appreciate you taking the time again. Thank you so much. And for those of you watching it later, we hope you enjoy it.
Well, it's such a pleasure, and happy Christmas to everybody, and happy New Year.
Exactly. Thank you. And please, if you've enjoyed this, please do share it, like it, comment below, all that good stuff. And we will see you again soon. Thanks very much, everybody. Thanks, Martin.
Cheerio.
Bye. See you.